HDR did a couple weeks ago and get comments back, and we got those comments, and then HDR spent the last week and a half or 2 weeks compiling those comments and making edits to the report. But as more time passed, I thought maybe it'd be more appropriate if we just have a kind of final conclusion, face-to-face meeting here, WebEx meeting, just to talk about all those edits and to give everybody at the committee a front view before we bring this out to county council and town council. And Darren, forgive me if you replied and I hadn't seen it, but do you guys have a time frame for town council when you guys would like presentation?
Yes, I had advised that it is going to be May 3rd at 10 a.m. in the morning. Okay. There is a special town council meeting that morning. The first agenda item pertains to workforce housing, and this will be the second agenda item. Okay. I reached out to Philip late last week in lieu of a email response from you, Jared. I reached out to Philip directly, and he reached out to Jeff, and they mutually confirmed their ability to present to town council that time.
Perfect. All right, and then county council meeting will be later tonight, this evening at county council. So I guess, Philip, maybe if you can kind of take us through the comments and the matrix, and just so we know what we ended up with. And again, my goal is, rather than us make edits, is just everybody knows what the conclusion of the report, and then also what the presentations to both town council and county council will entail. So Philip, if you can kind of take us through.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Jared. So I guess I wanted to just kind of go through a little bit of maybe what we're going to go through tonight with the council, and then it'll be something similar with the town council next Monday, and just kind of give you like a quick brief overlook of what that's going to look like. So we presented, maybe it was about a month ago or so, the interim update. So we're going to use those same few slides as kind of a quick intro again, maybe a couple minutes just on like what the coordination was with DOT, what we reviewed, things that we analyzed, and just key things that the Oversight Committee has brought up for us to look at with that. And then we'll go into the recommendations, which are in the report. So we'll go through those one by one and kind of point out what the history was behind that and why we're making that recommendation. I guess some of the key things that I wanted to point out there that I don't know that how much we've gone through on these calls, but as far as the recommendation goes, we have recommendations kind of along 278. It just seems like the least impactful and most likely alternative that DOT will move forward with would be something that goes along the 278 corridor. And so we have given recommendations for kind of a lot of things that the Oversight Committee had concerns about, as far as safety and speed limit and the character of the corridor and how to handle bike lanes and how to handle just the character going through the Stony community, how to handle the amount of traffic that will be going through there, and still being able to cross pedestrians and things like that. So that's where we're going with that. Also, to my knowledge, the town is under contract with a land planner to look at specifically this area east of the bridges with regards to character of the roadway and land planning adjacent to the roadway and land planning in other areas of that landscaping, bike paths, sort of that situation. And we have been in contact with them a couple of times, so I know that they are moving forward with their report on what this corridor should look like in the future. So that is going on as well. And then I guess the last thing I wanted to point out that DOT is kind of following the NEPA process, and so I don't think they've made their preferred alternative public yet. That has to be signed off by agencies in order to do that. So I think a lot of the things that we're hopeful to get information from DOT will be at the public hearing. That'll be their next opportunity to get things out to the public. So some of these recommendations are items that the Oversight Committee and kind of thereby the public in general would like to see in regards to cost for each alternative, cost for intersection concepts, a travel time moving through the area, because I know the level of service has been confusing with the A through F grading. It's not necessarily your grade school grading scale. It's a little different. So I know the committee has mentioned that the time travel or the travel time, but for this corridor is important to understand what improvements are going to be made on the corridor based on the different intersection options or whatever DOT is going to do. So those are some items that I just wanted to point out. But again, we're just going to go through the 4 slides that we had at the previous meeting with the county, and then go through basically 1 slide a piece on each of the recommendations that we've made with the council this evening. And then I think everybody has had a chance to go through a response matrix. So I know everybody had sent emails in with comments. So we did the best I could to just kind of put these in a matrix format with comments and then responses. I know some of these were more in paragraph form, but I think we did a decent job of putting those in and then making those responses to the changes that we've made in the report based on the responses. So we do appreciate the very, very thorough review that everybody did on the report and the comments that were made. And I think we've taken those into account in the new report that was sent out as well. Jeff, do you want to add anything to that, or Jared?
I'll just reiterate. I think we did, like you said. I appreciate everybody replying in a timely fashion. I know that was something we always worry about, but everybody got comments back, and so we were able to get this turned around by the end of April. So we can present this tonight, and then certainly, Darren, to your point, next Monday with the town. So I don't have anything else. Jared?
No, I mean, I feel like we've kind of run this from infancy to the end to come to this final conclusion. And I think we've vetted out a lot of good things along the way. We've had a lot of good concerns, and I think we've got a lot of things in this report that we can press upon DOT to make sure they're considering as they move forward. All the way from the Stony initiatives to the traffic model growth and everything in between. So I feel like it's pretty comprehensive, and that we really followed the scope that was outlined, and feel like we've sufficiently met that. So that's us talking. Any comments from everybody else?
I just had, this is David Johnson. Well, first of all, I think that I appreciate you guys doing a wrap-up call like this. I think that's helpful, and I think you did take into account almost everything during this process that we had brought up. I mean, at least the very, even if you didn't answer them because you couldn't, you at least presented them that DOT needs to answer them. So I appreciate all the work that's been done. I really just had 2 little, just minor things, which I sent to Jared, but really tiny, but spell Mitchellville correctly on your report. Okay, it's got 1 L, not 2 in the Mitchell, and I wasn't sure of the figures. Again, these are minor, but I thought figure 2. I didn't the second illustration or second photo with a gated entry. I mean, that's to me, that just throws. I mean, that's not something anybody wants to see. So I'd take that out, frankly. On your aesthetics, do you remember what I'm talking on the gateway?
Okay, I think that is that's the one in the appendix?
Yes.
Yeah, so that is actually that is the DOT mitigation plan that was put in the appendix as a reference item.
They've got a gate. Where would the gate be?
David, I don't think that was something we discussed. It was something DOT had been coordinating with Stoney. You're talking about the kind of overhead arching signage slash
I'm
gate?
not looking at it, but there's a figure 2, and there's one that shows like a gated community going in. I don't know where that would be, but
Yeah.
anyway, I mean, I don't know if anybody else noticed that, but I thought it was a little odd that we would have a gated. Anyway, but more importantly, spell Mitchellville correctly. That's an important thing.
Yeah.
But other than that, I thought you guys did a great job.
Yeah, looking at that picture in the comment in front of me, David, those were concepts that DOT used to facilitate discussion as they had been meeting with Mitchellville. I mean, Stoney community members.
Stoney, okay.
It was just to
All right.
get kind of flavor of design and theme, not necessarily we're going to put a gate anywhere.
Yeah, you guys might want to just put preface it with that, just to make sure people don't know that that's HDR and it's DOT, right? So.
Yeah,
Yes.
That's a hot topic, around Hilton Head, of course.
Maybe Philip, we can just put on there on
Right
that.
top.
Yeah, information provided by DOT.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I guess just to clarify a little bit, as I mentioned, so the town has a land planner on board now, so they're actually getting input into that report that they're putting together. So I don't know how much they'll be coordinating with these mitigation plans, but I think the hope is that the town will be able to put in their input to what this entrance, or I guess as it's referred to here, a kind of a gateway concept is to look like.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. But we'll clarify that. It's Appendix B. We'll clarify what that is. Maybe just put something on there.
Hey, while we have you on the phone, can I pick your brain on just one issue? Not really related to the report, but we early on in this project, and David, you'll probably recall this, some people mentioned some visualization or modeling of different patterns. Have you seen that before? I mean, I've seen some YouTube videos where you see, cars go this way, cars go that way. Is that typically something that is done in these situations? Could we push the DOT to do that? What do you, from y'all's perspective, seeing many more of these projects than me, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's something we do. Jeff, do you want to talk to that? I guess it's complexity, but I think DOT would be able to do that on the corridor. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, John, I think I understand. Just sometimes websites just have a hyperlink to YouTube, and it just kind of showing like almost like a flyover view of the corridor. Is that kind of what you're thinking? Or?
I've seen where like the traffic being modeled through an intersection will actually show you the volume of cars that make it through, and then the signal change, and then the other ones go this way. So it's actually it's almost like little dots in an intersection, and you can kind of see what it looks like based on the assumptions of timing of I guess signals as well as volume of traffic.
Sure, and I think that the SCDOT could definitely do that as well based on some of, I mean, we're already asking them to do that corridor arterial travel time, so that they're already kind of revising their model and can have some kind of an output. So I don't think that should be an issue at all.
Now, is that the sync? What model is that? Is that the synchro or whatever that is?
Right, that's the synchro and sim traffic is kind of that output.
Okay.
Yep.
I just don't know the right wording to use when we ask to do
John,
something.
another thing DOT's working on, just from coordinating with them outside of the review committee, is, and they've been asked kind of a similar question, but instead of showing the kind of cars from overhead and they kind of look like little ants, they have been asked to facilitate a model that shows, like, if you were driving the car, what it feels like.
Okay, yeah, I've seen some of those before too. Those can be helpful for people to
Yeah.
visualize it.
So they are working on that model, and they're going to make presentation on that. Most likely that's at the public hearing, whenever that's scheduled for them. But I know they have that model that they're working on. When I'm not sure when they plan on presenting it.
Okay, thanks.
Jared, I'll jump in. I want to say that I really appreciate the effort on HDR's part to prepare this comment response matrix. I think it was very well prepared, and I think that they did a good job responding to the comments of the Oversight Committee on the draft report. I just have two minor comments, and that is in HDR's response to comment 43, which pertained to figure 5 on page 11 of the report. HDR's response is no left turns are shown at the Old Wild Horse Road intersection. As I look at figure 5, I do see a median shown that would prevent any left turns, but there are still left turn arrows superimposed atop that median, showing left turns off of the arterial in both directions. I wanted to point that out. And my other minor comment pertains to the first paragraph on page 13, which is titled Reduced Conflict Intersection with New Connector. That paragraph begins with a reference to the Squire Pope Road intersection, but then it starts discussing the Old Wild Horse Road intersection at length. And in the last sentence, there's a reference to the current traffic signal. And I had to pause there for a moment before I realized that, or I guess assumed that the reference to the current traffic signal is a reference to the current traffic signal at Squire Pope Road. But I just wanted to point that out, that reference to the current traffic signal, if I assume correctly, and that's a reference to the existing signal at Squire Pope Road. Maybe just clarify that, say the existing signal at Squire Pope Road.
Yeah, we're looking at Darren. I think actually, since there's so much traffic going, I think that actually sentence is, if we were to keep that configuration at Spanish Wells and Wild Horse, that particular intersection, because of all the left turns that would be going to that particular intersection may not function correctly. Due to the increased, all the left turns that would be going onto Squire Pope Road would then be coming down to Wild Horse. You have increased traffic at that signal, and so that may be a signal that wouldn't work very efficiently.
So that reference to the current traffic signal is a reference to the Spanish Wells Road signal.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, might want to highlight that because I was unclear on that.
All right. Any other thoughts, Mike or Herbert?
Yeah,
Haven't heard anything from you guys.
Philip, Mike Garrigan here.
Hey, Mike.
Let me ask a question that's related to the report, but in some ways is not related to it. And that is, are you aware of at any time whether or not SCDOT over the past several years we've been discussing this US 278, if there has ever been any attempt to look or investigate or look into the alternative that is on starts on page 5 and goes over to page 6, and that is an alternative gateway or entrance to Windmill Harbor. And I'm not the Windmill Harbor, but to actually to the island itself, Jenkins Island, et cetera. What I was thinking about is there has always been the plan to extend the Bluffton Parkway all the way through to the interstate. And I just was curious, have you ever heard of any discussion by SCDOT to look at a new set of bridges across the water to Hilton Head Island? Has that ever come up in any of your discussions?
So I know, I think Risa questioned that as well. And I think it was one of the questions in the comment matrix that there's been discussions about that, I think maybe on the local level, but that particular project has not ever made it into a long-range plan to our knowledge. So either the local council of government plan or even the DOT, the state transportation improvement plan. I don't think that has happened. The only real reference that I saw from DOT would be in their the 19 preliminary alternatives that they looked at. I know alternatives, there's like 6A, 6B, 6C, I believe that's right. And those were all sort of new location alternatives that they looked at. But as far as putting in a long range plan or some other study, I have not seen that. Have you, Jared?
Yeah.
No, the extension towards the interstate on the west side of Bluffton Parkway, Bluffton Parkway is entirely a county-owned road. So that would be more of a county project as far as the extension westward. And I would almost bet that DOT would have that same standpoint going eastward connecting to the island. So I haven't seen that anything besides what Philip just described as the alternatives. Long range.
I don't know. Once you get
Mike, I think you might have broke up.
Yeah, I was just saying, once you get past the cost and environmental impact and other issues, it has a lot of merit. I mean, it really
Yeah, I think Mike,
if
between
you ever have an accident, my daughter has a condo on Pensacola Beach, and you go across that 3-mile bridge to get to Santa Rosa Island from Pensacola, and a barge broke loose last year, slammed into the underpinnings, and that bridge was completely closed to traffic. I think it still is. I'm not exactly sure, but it was closed for months, and it meant that people had to take an alternative bridge, which was like 23 miles further north. If we ever had an issue like that, it's just, that's just one of the things out there that comes to mind without an alternative entranceway or exit off of the island, especially in a heavy storm. I don't know. It's just that something a lot of people have talked to me are very supportive of having either another bridge across the water to Hilton Head Island, or even people have discussed tunneling. And I don't know the impacts of either of those in terms of environment or cost. If cost is not an issue, which some people have raised, then maybe that's a lesser point to be raised. But I know there certainly would be environmental issues that would have to be overcome. But it has tremendous merit in the eyes of a lot of people, including myself. And I know it's outside the context of what we're discussing here, but to some extent, it does tie in. So
Yeah, no, I'm glad that it was discussed, and I've been part of it. And Herbert, you brought it up, whether it's this or connecting to St. Helena or wherever. Mike, I think you must have been listening to some of my conversations last week with staff that we prepare for hurricanes, but what about other occurrences like a barge striking a bridge or something like that? So I think it's definitely something we can tease out of this as a kickoff to maybe a study. But I agree with you. I think it's something we probably need to do as a region and take a look at beyond the project, obviously.
It's nice we don't have too many barges coming through. That always helps. I don't think I've ever seen a barge down there, but
Yeah.
there is that big cruise ship that does the regional one.
Well, we've had a barge hit Ladies Island Bridge. So
Yeah, well, they're going upriver, right?
Barges in the area, but regardless, I mean, it could be from a storm and a storm event or a earthquake or whoever knows. But I guess to sum up, Mike, it's a very good idea and something that I think we're going to start pouring a little bit extra energy into outside of this scope of project.
So, Jared, I did plan on mentioning that that was brought up during our Oversight Committee. So maybe that will help the county council as well. So yeah, I actually have some family that live down in Pensacola. I think that was a barge that broke loose during a hurricane. So it was a combination of both barge and hurricane at the same time.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a very, very long detour. Yes, it is.
Herbert, I haven't heard anything from you. Any thoughts? I think you're on mute, Herbert.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. My as a representative of the community, unfortunately, our desire was for existing pavement not to be expanded, but we see that that's the direction we're headed in, and it is going to have an impact on us from a safety perspective in our minds. And as you know, we've always said that there should be an alternative route coming to Hilton Head as opposed to the existing. But as Mike said, that's the purview, but it's something that needs to be considered and hopefully will be implemented in the future. So that's essentially my comments.
Well, like I said, there's some secondary and tertiary benefits out of this study that I think were teased out, and that is definitely one of them. Alternate route to the island, wherever that connection point may be, is something worth consideration. So, all right, then. Well, again, I felt it was probably worthwhile for us to jump on just to have a final closeout call. I appreciate the opportunity of working with everybody. I get paid to come to work, as does Darren, so this is part of our job regardless. And all you guys are doing this on your own time. So I really, really appreciate all the input and time spent towards this effort to make this a generational project, something that we can all stand behind and be proud of, something that we can say that we are involved with and help shape and craft. And it may not be the perfect solution, or it may not be the perfect solution for one group versus the other, but we can say that all the groups came together to make what it is worthwhile. And I think we can all be proud in that fact. So again, I appreciate everybody's commitment to the task. One, taking the task as a commission group, and then two, staying through the group and the working meeting. So I'm sure we'll run into each other on other items, whether it's 278 or other projects, but until then, I really appreciate everybody's effort, and we'll make these presentations, HDR will, over the next week and a half or so. So, all right.
Good luck on the presentations, and thanks a lot, everyone.
Yes, thank you, everybody. We really appreciate it. We enjoyed working with you. It's kind of one of the things that we do is as we go through design and projects is getting feedback from the local community, and like this is really great for us actually. We enjoy making sure that what gets built is something that the people want to see, and there was a lot of great points that were brought out in this meeting that I think that DOT will take notice of and make sure that they implement.
All right, well, thanks everybody, and we'll see you around.
Thanks all.